Hey guys, my name is Gabe, and this is episode 25 to Let's Make Rust, and this is the third part to our inventory. So in this episode, we're going to be working on our inventory yet again, and we're going to make it so that whenever we hit P, just for now, it's going to add items to our inventory. So you can see that we have a Glock item. It doesn't look too great art-wise, but that doesn't really matter so much at the moment. But as you can see, it works perfect. So we can add items and remove items. So if we remove, for example, if we remove this, it'll find the next empty space, and it should add it to that empty space as it did just there. So yeah, we're going to be working on those things today. So stay tuned and enjoy. Alright, so to get started, we're going to import a Glock image that I actually found on Google. I just removed the background. So I'll include a link in the description. I just put it in my textures folder for now, but we're actually going to have to move this. So in here, we have our Glock image. This is a 256 by 256 image, and we're just going to make this sprite 2D and UI. Bilinear is fine. I might lower the quality or the max size, and I think compressed will be fine. So if we hit apply, you should see the background should have went away. And if we go to our assets folder and we make a new folder called resources, and I'll explain this in a minute, and inside of resources we're going to make a folder called item icons. Inside of item icons we're just going to put our Glock. So I'm just going to put this in the resources folder and into item icons. Okay, so the reason we're doing this is because we're going to need the resources folder. Basically, we can load things from here within our scripts, and we can find the sprite for our item that we're going to have for our inventory from here. So in this case, here's our sprite, and I'm going to open up our inventory canvas again. I just disabled it right here. You can enable disable, and I'm gonna let's see, I'm gonna see if I could put in some slots. So I'm gonna go to prefabs, inventory, put in some slots so that we could see here. So something like that. I just want to be able to see at least one. So I'm gonna, inside of slot, oh right, okay, I forgot. So we made an item in here. So I'm gonna enable this, and you can see we already have a sprite on this, but we're gonna replace this with Glock. And as you can see, it kind of looks okay. It depends on which sprite you're using and the colors of everything. You just want to make sure it doesn't look something like this, because this is kind of like a blurry mess, but it'll work for us because this is just a tutorial. Maybe we could try to change some things here. Yeah, so that looks a little bit better, maybe without the filter. You can also try increasing the size and the pixels per unit, things like that, but that's totally up to you. Okay, so for each item, we're going to excuse me. So for each item, we're going to pick what the source image is. And whoops, I didn't mean to do that, but that'll work actually. Yeah, that'll be fine. So I'll just disable these and hit apply. I'm gonna take this item, and in our inventory, I'm just gonna, well, first I'm gonna enable it actually, and I'm gonna drag it in here. So now we have item, and I'm going to disable it up here. Or it doesn't matter because I'm actually going to remove it. I'm going to apply the slot so that we don't have the children items anymore. So now if we were to drag the item onto here, you should see that it should be perfectly in the center, and that's what we want. We're going to be using that. We're going to be using that to have our inventory create items. Okay, so let's open up our inventory script. So over here, we're going to go to inventory. Okay, so we're going to have to import using Unity, and we're going to have to import system.collections.generic, and with this namespace, we're going to be able to use lists. So we're going to create our list. So it's going to be a public list of game objects, and it's going to be called slots. It's going to be a slots is equal to a new list of game objects. Okay, great. So now down here, we're going to have to change up a few things. So we're going to remove this, and we're going to remove this cast, and we're going to Okay, so we're going to get errors. That makes sense. So we're going to do slots.add, and now we're going to put that all inside. Excuse me, not slot instance. So we're going to have to remove that as well. Okay, so slots.add, instantiate slot prefab. Okay, so now this is going to be a part of our list instead. So now we're going to have to do slots I dot transform dot set parent, and now we're going to set the parent through the slot, so that now if we go into Unity and we go to our inventory here, you should see, or not right here, our inventory, you should see now we have something called slots here. So once we hit play, you should see that now we have a list of 30 slots here, and we can see all the slots here. Now, the reason we're doing this is it's a little bit more convenient, and this will come later in the future once we start implementing items, which actually we should start doing right about now. So I'm going to make a new C# script, and also that was more than 30. I just realized that was a little more because we had some extra slots here. So that would have been something like 48 slots because we have 18 here. So let me just remove these, and if we hit play, and okay, so we should see that we have 30. If we go to our inventory, so here, and go to and we go to our list, you should see now we have 30 elements. Okay, so great. So okay, reload all. That's because we just made a new script. We created item. I'm gonna remove all these, by the way. We don't need all these scripts open. And how I'm doing this is I'm just middle mouse clicking. Okay, so let's open up our scripts folder, our inventory folder, because I don't think we have that open yet. And we're going to open up item. Okay, so item does not need to derive from MonoBehavior. What MonoBehavior does is it allows us to control things such as the transform and things like that, which we do not need for item. So we're just going to remove that. And let's see, we're not going to need any of these methods here. So we're not going to need start, and we're not going to need update. But what we will need is a constructor. So I'm going to make public item, and we're going to need another constructor called public item. Okay, so we're going to have two different constructors. The reason we're getting errors is because they both have the same parameters. Technically, they're empty. So actually, yeah, we'll make the second we'll make this second constructor a little bit later. Let's first just start out with a few things. So we're going to do a public string, and this is going to be called name, or I guess item name, because that looks a little nicer here. So we're also going to do a public string item description, and we're also going to have later we're going to do maybe a public sprite. Actually, yeah, we should do that now. So public sprite. Will this work without? Yeah, okay, so public sprite should work without using the UI, because it is syntax highlighted right now. So public sprite, call this item sprite. Okay, so these are the three things that we're going to need for now. Later we could do things like durability. So for now, in item, we're going to have to take in a few things. There's going to be string name. We're going to have string description. And we're going to have, and we don't need sprite yet. Or actually, what we will do is we will have, oh right, okay, we need, excuse me, we need one more thing. Just to make our lives a little bit easier, we could instantiate things by an ID, so that'll be easier to make when we make our little database, which will store all of our items. So above our sprite, I'll have a public integer item ID. Okay. And in here, we're going to do int, and we're going to do ID. Okay, so now we're going to do item name is equal to name, description, or not description, we're going to do item description is equal to description, and item ID is equal to ID. Now what's happening here is because we have a constructor, instead of writing out create new item, and for each of those items we have to set these all manually, when we create a new item, all we have to do is just put these variables inside of the parameters, and it'll just look a lot cleaner, it'll look more neat, and I feel it's a little bit more professional. Okay. So we also might want to include one more thing, and this is going to be called, okay, so we're going to do a string, and this is going to be sprite name. Okay, so we're going to do string sprite name. Actually, I kind of feel like putting the ID all the way at the bottom. So, and I'm also going to do the same thing for here because it's better organization. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of the constructor as well. And let's see, so we're going to do item sprite is equal to resources, resources dot load, and now we're going to have to load from a path. Okay, so inside of resources dot load here, we're going to have to put a sprite because that is what we're loading. So inside of here is the object that we're going to be loading. Man, I keep saying excuse me today. That's a little weird. And inside of here, we're going to do item icons. I believe that's what I called the folder. So if we go back to Unity, just want to make sure here. Yep, item icons. So just make sure that's correct. And we're going to do a forward slash and plus the sprite name. And we're going to put a semicolon there. So that'll load the icon, and it will just let us know which one we're going to be using. So now in our inventory, or actually before we do that, I want to make a public item. Okay, so that should work. So this is an empty constructor, so now we could still create a new item with no parameters, just in case you want to do something like that, and we might do that later. So in inventory, we're going to make a, okay, hold on, I'm changing my mind again. So now we're going to make an item database. So inside of our scripts folder, in our inventory, we're going to create a new C# script, and it's going to be called item database. And we're going to open that up and hit reload all as usual. Okay, and we're going to clear all this. Okay, and we are going to now from here create a database of items. So we're going to create a list of items. Okay, the reason it didn't work is because we have to include our namespace. So using collections.generic. So we're going to create a list of items, a public list of items. So public list items is going to be called items equal to new list of items. Okay, great. So now we're going to we're going to make a private void, and we're going to do create items. We're going to do items.add a new item, and we shouldn't get errors if we do this. This is basically a empty item, but in this case, let's see here. How did it do that before? So if we open up these parameters, if we hit the down arrow, not like that. Okay, what am I trying to do here? Will it work? Okay, yeah, here we go. So if you hit the up arrow, you can see now it shows us all the different constructors that we could use. So in this case, we have to give this one a name. So in this case, we're going to call this Glock. Description, a 9mm weapon. Sprite name, we're just going to call this what it is here. So if we go to sprites here, or not sprites, if we go to our resource folder, item icons is just called Glock. I'll just call this Glock item and copy that. So Glock underscore item, and now we have to give it an ID. So I'm going to give this the ID of 0. And I don't know why that, okay, right. And we have to add our last parentheses here. Okay, great. So now we basically have an item in our database, and we can create a whole bunch of these. What we need though is basically to create those sprites so that each one of them have a different sprite. That's important so that people actually know what the object is. So we could do that. I could also make an item for Apple. We're gonna do that once we set up the inventory. We'll make it so that instead of pressing E and eating it right away, we're gonna make it inventory interaction, so we could eat it rather through the inventory. Okay, so now we're gonna have to, in our start method, we're going to call create items. Maybe I want to call this something like, whoops, I'm going to call this something like, let's see, database setup. Maybe item database setup. Okay, great. So right now we only have one item, and if you want to make a new item, you do something like items dot add new item. I don't know why that happened. New item. That keeps okay, that's a little weird. Why is it doing that? New item. Why is it doing that? Okay, I'll just remove this then. New item, and this is going to be called something like apple. A delicious red fruit. And we're going to call this apple underscore item and ID of 1. Okay, so how we're going to add items to our inventory is we're basically going to loop through this one list, and we're going to find the one with the ID of the one that we ask for in the inventory. So in the inventory, we're going to now have to create a method. So we have here create slots, and under that we're going to do a public void, because we want to be able to add items from other scripts. So we're going to do public void add item, and inside of here we're going to take an integer ID. So now here's where the fun stuff begins. This is where we actually create our item. So I'm going to do item, so item add is equal to a new item. So we'll just do that for now. We'll just make this a new item. And we also have to include our item database. So right here I'm going to do a private item database. Don't mind the phone. I don't know if that's going to be a bother, but anyways, I'm going to continue item database. Alright, and in our start method, we're going to find item database. And we're going to do item database is equal to GameObject.find GameObject with tag item database. Dot get component item database, of course, and that is a long line. Okay, so this is going to find our item database, and we might as well set that up before I forget as usual. So I'm going to create a new item, and I'm going to reset its position. I'm going to give it a new tag, so tag 7, I'm going to call this item database, and in here, okay, we're just going to set up item database, and I'm also going to call that item database. Wow, I'm also saying that a lot. Okay, so this is the database, and in here we're going to add the script, and we should be seeing the list. I don't know why. So public list. I'm not really sure why we can't see the list right now. That's a little strange. So, oh, maybe, okay, so this is important. We do have to make these serializable. So, serialized field, I believe, or serializable. Hold on, let me check. Oh, wait, no, never mind. Okay, so I remembered it's system.serialized. Okay, so what this will do is we'll be able to see all these variables inside of each of the objects in our item list, which is not appear. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now if we go here and we create an item, you can see we have an element, and when we open that element, you can see all the cool stuff that's inside of here, and this is all the stuff right here. So that's perfect. We can actually see that. So if we go back to Unity and I remove this and I start the game, we should have one item added. Oh, we have two, right, okay, I created an apple. So the sprite, obviously, as you could see, it did not load because we don't have apple underscore item, like I said it was called. Sprite name, I don't know why it's not appearing here. We'll look into that. You can see here 9mm weapon, Glock, Oh, okay, I see. I know why it's not appearing. It's because we didn't actually set it here. So we're gonna do, let's see. We should probably rearrange this. Okay, so we're gonna do sprite name is equal to sprite name. No, that's not gonna work. We can't have these both be the same unless we do this dot sprite name. But I don't want to do that because we didn't do that for the rest of the objects. So I'm just gonna call this I'll call this item sprite name because we have this item convention going on. So I'll call this item sprite name is equal to sprite name. So now if we start our game, you should be able to see that we have a working database, and now we have to add items by the database.